We good?
All right.
All
Cool.
right.
It starts now. Now. Like, now. All right. So, I'm just going to say it. I talked a dude into picking Gaethje. I talked you into picking Gaethje, and I didn't pick him myself. I don't know what is wrong with me.
Yeah. So do you want to start at the top or do you want to go all the way
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
bottom?
yeah. Of course, it's the best fight of the night. One of the most incredible moments in lightweight history. Especially because of the times, the setup, the anticipation of Tony Khabib, all the implications thereafter, all that stuff. Tony Ferguson. um, oh, you know what? Let's do this like first. So if y'all are listening, we got a video. This should be up on YouTube. So go ahead and check us out on YouTube. Subscribe, comment. Let us know what you guys want to see here. Talk about all this stuff. Ask questions, all that crap. Subscribe. Yeah, I think I said subscribe, like, whatever. Anyway, okay, got that out at the top this time. Anyway, so for those who are a little less familiar with the UFC, the last couple of years, and Tony Ferguson, he was on a 12-fight win streak in the lightweight division, which is historically and currently the deepest division in not just the UFC, but every MMA organization, because that is the middle point where a lot of male human beings will fall when they are lean and in competitive shape. And you have a larger pool to pick from. Plus, on top of that, if you weigh 160, 170 pounds and you're 5'9", if you're an elite athlete, there's not a lot of sports for you. So this is one of those outlets. Um, yeah, man. With all of that setup, Tony Ferguson was on a 12-fight win streak, and he was destroying people. He had a close fight with when we were in Chicago, Danny Castillo. He had a close fight with him. It was, I think it might have been a split decision actually, but it was a little back and forth, but nothing like this. Tony Ferguson has been the staple of the 155 division. In my opinion, he's been the uncrowned champ. Kind of crowned when he got the interim championship, but then fell over some cables and messed up his knee, which is really unfortunate. Uh, Dude, this guy, they called his nickname is El Kukui. And for those of you guys who don't know what that means, it means the boogeyman, and that's what he was. He was the scariest guy in the 155 division. If you Google Tony Ferguson last couple opponents, like there's a picture on there, and it looks like every one of them was from a horror movie. They would look like they were victims of Freddy or Jason. They were all torn up. And Justin Gaethje comes in and for 5 rounds, just put it on Tony. Just outworked him in every facet of the game. Like there was no real takedowns attempted. I think Tony had a half-ass one at one point where he got his ankle, and at one point he did an Imanari roll. But other than that, man, it was all contested on the feet, and Justin did everything. He led the dance the entire way. And all right, I'll let you do
Man,
your little things because I got more to say on this. So
I mean, we could probably do a whole hour just on breaking down this fight from around. Like, it kind of just had everything. Everything that you want to look for in a fight. Because it wasn't just, Justin Gaethje controlled the entire fight, but there was enough of a back and forth, and there were enough moments where, like, it kind of looked like the tide might turn in Tony's favor. It looked like he was starting to figure it out.
the end of
And
the second round.
it was an emotional roller coaster going through that fight. I might as well have just been, glued to my couch and just clenching it the entire time. I think I texted you during it. I was like, I think my resting heart rate's like 120 right now, just watching this fight.
Yeah,
Sitting
mine
on
was
my
up
couch,
there.
not doing anything. It was amazing. Like, it's just an amazing fight through and through. And yeah, after you talked to Justin Gaethje to basically everybody, I went to my homework a little bit more. I was like, all right, I want to see what this guy's about. And
I told you, man. I
I
told
pretty
you.
much just went back and watched every single fight I could find on, ESPN Plus and Fight Pass, and I was just like, all right, I'm sold. I think if there's anyone in 155 that's going to give Tony Ferguson an issue, like this is the guy. And we'd broken it down in the last podcast. Like if you were going to go 10 fights between the two of them,
I still think Tony wins more often than not.
Tony
especially with the build up to this fight.
Tony probably wins 6 out of 10 times, and I hope that there's a second fight between the two of them.
For the real title.
I hope this is not the last time that they fight. I really do, because I want to see how both of them approach it a second time, knowing what the other one is.
With the real camp. Yep. Yeah.
Focused purely on each other and all the hype in the world. Like that's my dream after coming out of this fight is I want to see that run back just legit. And yeah, it was just
so there were a couple key moments in the fight. The first round
single combination thrown.
No. Here's how it played out. Like for me when I was watching it. So the first round, Tony was keeping Justin at distance, and he was able to keep away from a lot of those hooks until he wasn't. Like Justin kind of started to figure out and started to press his way in, started to outland him near the end of the first round. That carried into the second round. Justin was swinging for the fences. He was wading his way in. He was using a lot of head movement and avoiding a lot of Tony's shots, but he was getting hit by quite a few as well. And he rocked Tony a little bit in the second round, but then in the last second of the second round, Tony Ferguson hits him with this nasty uppercut and snaps Justin's head back. And Justin said it after the fight too. He was like, when he was walking back into the tunnel, he's like, I don't even remember the first or second round because Tony cleaned me. He cleaned my clock, man. So at the end of the second round, I was like, okay, I still gave that second round to Justin. Felt like they both rocked each other in that round.
And I think it's kind of, Justin was throwing just his everything into every single punch, and he throws a lot of hooks, but he was also connecting.
Yeah,
I have a hard time like calling it crazy because everything was controlled. As crazy as it was, the amount of power he's throwing into those punches. Like, it wasn't like people just throwing overhand rights, hoping it connects. Like, there was some serious accuracy behind the strikes that he was throwing, especially once he started getting into those combinations.
I feel like the biggest difference, like the whole night, I said it over and over again all night. The theme of UFC 249 was leg kicks. It seemed to make the biggest difference or not the biggest difference, but it made a big difference in a lot of fights. And they started to add up. You saw Tony's leg really start to give away in the later rounds. So going into the third round, this was kind of the like I still had Justin up 2-0. So if he could put together one more good round, I felt like he could have won it on the scorecards. So I was wondering to myself, like, does he have the cardio to do
those
that?
judges' scorecards, but
So he ends up, or Trevor Whitman after the second round comes over to Justin and he's like, dude, he's like, you're trying to kill him with every shot. He's like, take 10% off, 10%. He's like, take 10% off, and just keep touching him. And he's like, I want you to touch a shoulder and set up that leg kick. He might have said that after the first round. It's just Trevor Whitman is such a good coach, and there's a reason why the UFC has him on payroll to do coverage of corner advice. He's really freaking good. So the third round goes by, and you can see Justin just start to put it on Tony, and Tony has less and less going for him. He's putting out less. He's not able to keep up. It's not the pace that's killing him. It's literally he's just getting hit with these big ass hooks, and he gets rocked a few times in that round too.
And then even taking 10% off those punches, it still sounded like a Mack truck hitting a brick wall.
Yeah,
that was
Whew. And in the third round, that's when he cut up Tony. That's when that cut really started to open up, and he started to blow up Tony's eye. And that was the first time we've seen that. He basically, not quite what Tony does to other people, but he made Tony look like all of Tony's old opponents. So after that, he starts to, like, in the fourth round, Justin just does more of the same and more of the same. And then I think one of my favorite moments in the fight was in the corner. Trevor Whitman and Justin, after the fourth round, Justin's just giggling and laughing, and he's having a blast. He's just like, dude, I'm having so much fun. And Trevor comes up to him and he goes like, you remember what happened last time you got too comfortable out there? You got finished. And Justin goes, twice. And he's like, I need you to be sharp as fuck this round. And you know he's coming after you. I need you to be sharp. You need to pay attention. And he did it, man. In the fifth round, he just kept putting it on him. I don't think it's not a controversial stoppage to me. He was taking a lot of damage. He was really out. Like that last shot that made him like shake his head and like kind of try to like regain his feet and his consciousness was a jab.
Yeah, I've seen fights stop for less. That was I don't think that was a bad stoppage either.
So Justin Gaethje did it in a way that I definitely did not see coming. He hit, and Tony's chin. It was the exact opposite of what I thought was going to happen. I thought Justin was going to catch him early, and then Tony would weather the storm. But, dude, Tony never got dropped.
He got rocked like
multiple times, but never dropped.
Multiple times.
But not until later. The first round is usually when Tony gets hit and like kind of wobbled or dropped.
Oh yeah, no. At the second round, he was taking like just Mack truck punches, and you could hear it too.
He was smiling.
He's just walking it off, like, which was absolutely insane.
Yeah, so that was. I said it last night. I'll say it again. It was one of the best performances in arguably the best division in the sport against arguably the best competitor in that sport over the last 8 years. It was incredible. That guy's anybody who thinks that he was just some dumb brawler, like I've said it before, I'll say it again. He clearly changed after the two losses to Poirier and Alvarez. He clearly changed. And dude, he's not. Everybody was overlooking him, and even the ones who were giving him a chance, they were saying, "Oh, well, he has like a puncher's chance." I didn't.
That's not a fair even like assertion of a puncher's chance. Like Derek Lewis has a puncher's chance. Granted, he's a good striker, but that's having like he can win any fight with a puncher's chance. Gaethje went in there with some of the cleanest, just crisp boxing, accuracy, timing. Just he was putting it all together. And not just like a couple times, consistently. Almost every time Tony engaged, Gaethje put together a cleaner and more devastating combination to the point where Tony was trying to figure out, how do I engage this guy? Like, you could kind of see him not really being able to put together the chess match of, what am I going to do to get through this? Because he was just kind of getting shut down.
He wasn't able to do anything.
Yeah, he was getting shut down every way he was coming at him.
It was as meat and potatoes as an MMA fight can get. It was leg kick, not crisp boxing, but actually he jabbed more in this fight than I think I've seen him in any UFC fight too. He was very intelligent. He was very reserved in the first round. He didn't run into anything. Justin's a real deal. I've thought he was I've said it's also personal for me because he's the only person. For me, that I paid attention to before he was in the UFC, and since he's been there, like I've known that he's the real deal ever since then. And dude, I was super excited, and I can't wait to see what's next for both these guys. They're just so freaking good.
Yeah, that was one of the most incredible performances, and I actually think it was almost highlighted by there not being fans. Like, just hearing every breath, every emotion. Like, I thought it was almost kind of better to have that fight without the fans. Because, like, there would have been screaming and it would have been hyped up, but, like, it had that feeling of, like, the old Forrest Whitaker. Not Forrest Whitaker. Wow. Now I can only think of his name as fucking Forrest Griffin. Yeah. Forrest Griffin, Stephen Bonner. Like, it had that feel of just, like, small venue, but, like, it's not like there's, 30,000 people in there screaming about it, like, but it was just an absolute brawl.
Yeah, I didn't the lack of the crowd. I didn't really notice it that much, to be honest with you, until it was over. Like in between fights, I noticed it and like stuff like that. But
Walkout
during the
music's
fight,
weird without a crowd. I'll be honest. Like the entire
yeah,
walkout
that's
process looks.
strange.
You might as well just not videotape it. Just let them walk. Like start the
Yeah,
tape when they get to the evaluator.
yeah, that one's that it's, and I'm okay with it too because I think one of the reasons why they keep up the production value and the like the whole production system, like everything that they do, the production schedule, is because when you watch this fight, on Fight Pass a year from now, like they want it to look as similar to all of their other stuff as possible. So they want everything to remain the same.
And listen, I am very critical of the UFC and many of their business practices, but you gotta hand it to them. They pulled it off in a time when no one else is trying to pull this kind of thing off. Like,
Well, I mean, I think the NFL would be having games. I think the NBA, they stopped it because it happened right as everything was like picking up. But I think like if the NFL started things in May, I think they would be starting.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see by preseason exactly where their mindset's at.
Well, they're not planning on changing anything
I know.
as of right now. So,
Well, if a second wave comes, we'll see how they. But
dude,
I mean,
plus the
just
preseason's like an empty stadium event, anyways.
yeah. Yeah, just
Like
played
the
it like a freaking. I was gonna say high school football stadium, but some of those down in Texas are as big as
oh,
NFL stadiums. It's crazy.
yeah.
But not to detract, but just I got to give it credit. UFC put together an amazing show, an amazing production, and even watching through ESPN Plus, I was concerned about the servers, like being able to handle the traffic and there being some sort of connective issue. And maybe some
Yep.
people had some, but I was surprised. I was like, damn, this all went off pretty much as flawlessly as they could have dreamed of.
So this event is the first time I watched something on ES. So I watched the early prelims on Fight Pass because Fight Pass is flawless. There's zero lag, zero dropouts. Everything is perfect. Whatever server they're running their stuff off of is fantastic. So that's great. This is the first time that ESPN Plus only cut out once during an event for me.
Hmm.
Usually it cuts out like every other fight, or it's ESPN Plus is so shoddy, and it'll do that no matter what my internet connection is, no matter where I am, like on my phone, computer, tablet, doesn't matter. It's just always been so shoddy.
I will say that the user interface is not that great. That was
No,
probably
that's terrible too.
that was one of my biggest takeaways. Is like, this is not a great user interface. When I bought the pay per view, I was like, how do I know I actually bought it? Is it going to show up? Like, I was actually somewhat concerned when I got off the prelims. I was like, man, I really hope that pay per view sitting there ready for me when this is over.
Yeah,
It's not showing me where I'm going to see this. Yeah, it was interesting.
All right, so let's go to one of
So
my
many
biggest disappointments on the night. Henry Cejudo beating Dominic Cruz via TKO with 3 seconds left. God dang it! In the second round. Yeah, there was Keith Peterson. We can get to the accusations in a minute, but as far as I saw it, what happened? So Dominic Cruz is bobbing and weaving. I think he was picking it up. I still don't think he won a round. I still had Henry winning the first 2 rounds, and that's okay. But he was definitely picking it up.
I was starting to see the wave of him figuring out Henry Cejudo, figuring out his game plan, and then starting to kind of move towards imposing his.
Yeah, Dominic Cruz has better cardio than Henry. We didn't get to see it, but that's what I believe. I've seen Henry have problems in the later rounds. Not like it's not catastrophic, but for someone who has no cardio issues, like for one, I don't think Henry ever beat Demetrius Johnson in the first place. Like anybody, like I'll go to bat for that anyway. This fight, Cejudo looked phenomenal. He looked great. The first round, definitely his. Second round, again his. He caught Cruz with a knee with about 10 seconds or 12 seconds left on the clock in the second round. Um, Cruz loses his balance and goes like he gets knocked backwards. He's a little out of it. He flips over. There are 11 unanswered shots, but in the process, Dominic Cruz he's not getting to his knee immediately, but he
Yes.
rolls over. Okay, he's getting hit by shots. As he's getting hit by shots, he is lifting his head up. Then he brings his knee or his leg underneath his body. He's leaning against the cage. And then right as he gets to a knee is when Keith Peterson stops it. So I have so many problems with that because like without saying anything about the fact that this is a title fight, let's just look at that moment in time without any exterior influences or external influences.
Also, I think we got to talk about the weight class too.
We can talk about that in a second. It's a shit show.
No, I just mean like you have to factor the weight class into this too.
Yes,
It's
that
not
as well.
11 unanswered shots from Francis Ngannou.
Right.
Like,
Right. So these guys can hit hard. Like they could knock me out for sure. And your average human being, but these guys are professional fighters who chose to do this for a living. You cannot be. I said this. I said this to you. The referees have been robbing us the last 5 years. They've been getting more stringent, and they've been robbing us of Frankie Edgar, Brock Lesnar type of performances, where they just, they have to
weather the storm and then come back. And
yeah, it's just, dude. There's something that happens, like
that
in these
Gaethje
fights.
performance could have theoretically been like,
yeah. What if they stop that?
What
if they stop that in the end of the second round? They'd be like, "Oh, Gaethje wasn't intelligently defending himself for that last second." So here's. I also have another issue. I understand that covering up is not the most intelligent defense, but it's definitely intelligent. That's you're intelligently defending yourself by holding your hands up here. Okay. Now, if you do that for 30 seconds, like, okay, I can see a reason for a stoppage. But Cruz didn't do that. He was moving. He was working his way back up. He was off balance. One, he just got hit by a big shot, so his equilibrium was probably off. And he's also getting hit by a bunch of other shots. Henry's on top of him, putting his weight on him and pushing him against the cage. And even though all of those things were happening, dude, Cruz was working his way back up. And everybody will say, like, oh, well, he didn't get to the knee until Keith Peterson was stepping. I don't give a shit about that. That's not what I'm saying. He was already working on getting back up. And there were 3 seconds left. 3 seconds. That plays a part. If this is the beginning of the round, and you see this happen, it's more forgivable. I would argue that it's not totally forgivable in this case, but it's more forgivable. But with 3 seconds left, 3 seconds, you're going to tell me that those punches that were landing, that were not causing Cruz to fall on his face, were going to end the fight in 3 seconds? Well, if you think so, then let it run out and let me see him. Like let's see it.
Here's something interesting to think about too. If Cruz had not tried to get up, if he stayed on his back and put Henry in his guard, and probably took, and let's be real, probably could have taken more damage during the end of the round if he did that. But if he had taken that action, he probably wouldn't have gotten a stoppage. He probably could have demonstrated that he was in it enough that it wouldn't have been stopped, but arguably would have taken more damage than if he had turtled, covered up, and then worked to stand back up.
So, and then here, in this case, so I think what Herb Dean did for Tony Ferguson is what they should have done for this, because now let's bring in context. I was taking context out of this fight and just bringing it to that specific situation. Let's bring in context now. This is a title fight. This is not this is not on the prelims. This is not some garage fight where these guys have nothing on the line, okay, except for pride. There's a lot on the line for this. It means a lot. And there's 3 more rounds to go. And it's been back and forth enough, like where it hasn't been total domination. go like from one person or another, right? Like the first round wasn't a blowout. It was clearly Henry's round, but it wasn't a blowout round. Neither was that whole second round. He caught him with a flash knee, a good one.
Before that knee, there
And
really wasn't any serious damage done
no,
to either person. Like they were still kind of
no.
figuring each other out. And
So that's part of it. And then let's bring in some more context. Dominic Cruz is what, like 35 or something at this point? Okay. This might be one of his last fights ever. So he's not some young kid who has, 10 years of fighting left and we're trying to save his career, right? So if if you're looking out for the fighter's best interest, obviously life and limb is the most important, okay? Then what's right after that? Career, right? Because life and limb encompasses, like family, all that other stuff, making sure he's healthy. But right after that, it's got to be career. Like if you're an aging fighter and like this is your last fight or could be your last fight and it's for a title, this fight means more to him and to the company, to the division than something on Fight Pass in the early prelims. As much as those also mean something, it's just there's clearly different stakes involved here. So let's let it play out and then, like I said, bring it back to the specific situation. There are 3 seconds left. 3 fucking seconds. Come on. Come on, Keith.
I think the UFC needs to do a better job of explaining what intelligently defending yourself means.
Yeah, because it's subjective.
Because I don't think that, I think it's too subjective between the refs. And I mean, you could make the argument that the Tony Ferguson fight could have been stopped earlier because he was taking so many shots, because he was taking so much damage. Like
I would have been okay with that too.
Yeah, like you could have made that argument that, all right, this person, if a judge sees a one-sided fight on the feet, they could stop it if someone clearly just isn't performing, even though it's never gone to the ground. But then you could have someone be on the ground, taking a couple shots in a row, but at the end of the day, like maybe not that much damage. They're clearly more in it than, 2 people that have been on their feet for, 2.5 rounds and one person's just not clicking. Like I don't know. I think you're right that it's subjective, but I think it's when you have something like that's that subjective, you need to start putting in some bounds of this is what we expect from you.
Yeah, there should be a clearer delineation between what is an intelligent defense and what isn't. Is turtling up an intelligent defense? Yes, but for how long? For how long is that acceptable?
Yeah. And what's going to be the answer? If you turtle up and you're effectively defending, like they're not doing any damage because you're turtling up, do you stand it up then?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's if you're turtling up and you're rolling on the ground and getting hit in the shoulders, okay, what if you're just rolling with the punches and you're just moving back and forth like this and you're catching a lot of the punches on your elbows or your forearms? I mean, if that was standing and the guy was punching you in the elbows, like we all know that fight's not getting stopped. Why is it different because you're on your back? Like, is it just because of perception?
I think there's an argument to be made that maybe a better answer to that would be to stand it back up. Either stand it back up or allow the person
I don't want to
punching
see
him.
that.
Yeah. Or allow the person punching him to transition to try and grapple him or just give that warning of, listen, you're just punching him in the shoulder and this person's just turtling here. I mean,
I would just let it go. Just let it keep playing out. I see no problem with it. If you see that no damage is being done, like this isn't that exact case because there was damage being done. I would argue not a lot of damage. But he was taking short shots to the head. Yeah. The thing is, in the other case, let it happen. Because like I said, if it's a stand up and the guy's if one dude's just standing there and the other guy's just punching him in the shoulder, there's no reason to stop that. Like it's whatever's happening is happening. That's part of the fight game. And it's one of the reasons I'm so upset is one, I was rooting for Dominic Cruz. So that's why it's upsetting. But the bigger one for me is how hard he worked to get back here and to have it end like this bullshit. This happened with TJ Dillashaw, like with that with that stoppage. Here's a great example in the exact same division. Do you remember the end of the first round, the first time Cody Garbrandt fought TJ Dillashaw when he
Yes.
got caught? Yeah. Thank you, Edgar. You brought this up last night. Thank you. So if you remember that, dude, he clocks him, which throws TJ off balance. But then when TJ's trying to get up, Garbrandt comes in and does like a shovel uppercut or a shovel hook as he's diving down and catches TJ on the chin, and then TJ drops again. And there's only 5 seconds left in that round. Dude, what if
I
they
would
stopped
argue
that?
TJ was more out than Dominic was.
Yes. What if they stopped that fight? Seriously, because TJ remember he was stumbling back to his corner, and then what happens in that second round? TJ's got great cardio, as does Dominic. Okay, he gets his wits about him. He catches Cody with a head kick and then puts his fucking lights out with a right hand. Dude, if we had been robbed, like you can't know about something that you don't have, like doesn't happen, right? So we never would have known that we missed out on that. But looking back, imagine stopping that fight in that first round and being like, "Ow, he was out." But he wasn't. He was trying to get up. And the same thing happened here with Dominic.
I want to throw something out at you and see what you think. Would you prefer the UFC incorporate something more along the lines of it's so hard because of how many different disciplines work in and the different ways that you could finish someone, because you really can't do a boxing approach to where if someone is out or dazed, like if you get a knockdown,
I just think they
get a knockdown instead of like a follow-up of a flurry of punches, like I don't know. Like I said, I think intelligent defense needs to be better laid out. It needs to be more clear.
I think that the referees, I know that the UFC can't pick them, so it's a problem, but there are referees who are trigger happy, and we've seen it. Oh God, I keep
Which is
forgetting
crazy
that.
because some of those refs also
British
ref
guy.
boxing where guys will be completely fucking like way more out than anyone in the UFC and still like stumble to their feet and continue fighting.
Exactly.
Like not even close.
There are certain referees that have a track record of stopping fights, whether it be like arguably early or clearly early. They stop fights and they have made what can't necessarily be called a bad decision because they're doing their job and protecting the fighter. But when it comes to looking in the future, or not in the future, but when it comes to looking at like contextual like implications for that decision in that moment, like these referees, like they're robbing not only us, but they're robbing the fighters of earning it. You know, they're taking something away from them that they didn't lose themselves. You know, and I'm not trying to say that I want these guys to have more brain damage, and I'm not saying that everybody needs to get knocked the fuck out. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is, like, if there is clearly evidence, like, do you remember when Brendan Schaub?
I think the pendulum has swung too far in the wrong direction. Like there was a time where the pendulum was the other way. Like no one.
It still is sometimes, but yeah, it is more rare now that a fight gets. I would rather a fight gets. Let's put this out there. I would rather a fight get stopped too early than too late. Yes. Too late is just like way worse. So that's fine.
I would say the pendulum has swung too far in the direction of too early, and they need to take some action to, you know, be a little bit more. UFC has to push back a little bit and be like, hey, this is not accurately evaluating what we're trying to demonstrate as a sport. These competitions are not being accurately refereed.
So this will be the last thing that I say on this. Like, do you remember when Brendan Schaub was fighting Travis Brown?
Oh yeah, and it was just kind of an uncomfortable. God, that was so awkward watching.
So but do you remember when he got face first and he went turtle? And Travis Brown was landing these lazy ass punches because Travis was tired. And Mario Yamasaki is telling Brendan, like, hey, and Brendan's telling Mario, I'm fine. I'm fine.
He wasn't even turtled. He was like sprawled out. It was a really weird position. Like
he
he was up, but his body was like sprawled out.
And he was telling Mario, he was like, I am fine. I am doing fine. There was, I think, like 5 seconds left in the first round, and Travis Brown was exhausted. I distinctly remember that because after the fight, Travis Brown didn't have the energy or the cardio to even talk on the mic without like trying to catch his breath. That's how tired he was. If that goes to the second round, you
could physically see Brendan Schaub having a conversation with the ref and talking with his hands while he was getting hit.
He's like, I'm fine. I'm fine.
He wasn't even just turtling and like talking. He was like, his way of talking. He was talking with his hands.
So, like I said, like there's moments that we're being, and who knows, what happens in the third round when Dominic gets caught clean by Henry? Would you think that would be better than an early stoppage? Yeah, yes. I would say that's more exciting. Yeah,
it's definitive. It's more definitive for everyone involved because ultimately Dominic Cruz would rather have gotten knocked out than gotten that decision,
or actually just got really rocked and not just knocked off balance. And was he totally unconscious when he was falling backwards? No, like his head was up and he immediately flipped over.
You could see his brain firing. Like you could see, he saw what was coming. He was like, "All right, I got to do this." Like he was still in it.
So, with that being said, let's talk about Francis Ngannou versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik.
This is not going to take long because the
20 seconds.
I love when they went to bring up the replay. They're like, "Here's the entire fight."
Let's just show the whole fight, guys. We've got 15 minutes before the next fight's on. Let's just show this one again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, here's what I'll say. Jairzinho looks like he is a superior striker. Fundamentally, technically, it looks like he has more tools. But here's the thing. So I had this conversation last night. There is a part of me that says, if you just look at this fight, you can see, Francis Ngannou just bum rushed him and he hasn't gotten any better. And I would argue totally against that because if you look at the last couple fights, like especially the JDS fight, and if the JDS or Kane fight, dude, he was calculated. He was more. How do I say this? Okay, I'll explain how he was in this fight, and I'll tell you why he wasn't that. This fight, he got hit twice, like one leg kick, and I think he got tapped on the face, and he was like, "Fuck this," and he ran at Jairzinho and knocked him the fuck out. And the whole time, Jairzinho's like, he's counter striking, he's landing leg kicks as he's moving backwards, and he's striking. Dude, it doesn't matter. If you want to play the game on the feet with Francis for 15 minutes, like, I do not like your chances. I don't care who you are. I just don't like your chances because it only takes
game on your feet with Francis for 5 seconds. One exchange, I don't like your chances.
And like, I just think this really shows like how good Stipe is. It's not just his, not just as a fighter, but like his mindset, his ability to, his ability to. Yeah. Well, that too. He did get cracked a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if they fight again, Francis, that fight goes differently. I don't know right now. I couldn't tell you who's going to win. It's easy just to say, well, Francis knocks him out. But who knows? What if he comes in and gets taken down again? We haven't seen anybody really go for a takedown other than Kane, and Kane got clipped.
I just, because of his physique, I would love to see, and I'm sure he's doing tons of wrestling training in camp. I would be interested to see Francis get tested as a wrestler and see if he can really work his way through that.
Yeah, there's only two other wrestlers really that he fought, and that was Curtis Blades, who he's knocked out. Well, the first time was a blown up eye, and I think it was a doctor stoppage, and then the second time was a off balance. I wouldn't call it a knockout. It's
equilibrium.
Yeah, he stopped him. He hit him, and then when Kane, and he caught Kane. Kane lost his balance and really hurt his knee. People were saying that like, oh well, he caught him and that's why he went out. Like you don't scream when you're knocked out. Have you ever seen anybody scream when they get knocked out?
Nope.
No, you don't. But Kane was screaming. He had a grimace on his face. Like he clearly got caught, and that's fine. Yeah. And like that was a good punch by Francis. But he lost. That causes him to lose his balance, and you could see his knee give out. And I think Kane. I don't know if Kane could have ever beaten Francis in that state that he was in. Like with his body just, being torn to shambles. But I think Stipe or DC would be a great fight, but I don't think we're going to see DC fighting fucking Francis.
After what he just watched?
He was talking shit. He would be like, he would already be on the ground. And then eventually they were like, oh, DC, you don't want to fight him. And he's like, no, hell no, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't mad. I wasn't mad at it, and I didn't necessarily even feel like it was a bum rush. Because, like, he clocked him clean. There's a couple misses, but, I mean, everyone misses punches, especially going in. He just came forward at him with combinations. And, he ended up getting the stoppage. I would say I wouldn't mind seeing that fight run back again. It would be interesting. Like, it got stopped really quick, but Rozenstruik is such a talented striker and such a talented fighter. All right. So, Armez, I actually wouldn't mind seeing that run back again, and I'm sure it'll probably happen in the future. Just because Rozenstruik is a talented enough fighter and boxer that,
I think it would be interesting. He grapples, it'll be a different story. Not in outcome, but at least in like how the fight plays out. That's what I'd be interested in, because someone mentioned it, I think, before the fight. But King Mo is in Jairzinho's corner, and if you have that wrestler in your corner, he's got to be doing some sort of wrestling, right?
You'd think.
Like, you don't bring King Mo in to teach you striking. King Mo was great in his own right, but he's one of the best wrestlers in MMA. Like, that's what I'll say.
Yeah. All right. I wouldn't mind seeing that again in the future, and we probably will.
All right. Okay, so
Kelvin
we got
Kattar, Jeremy Stephens.
Dude, what a frickin'! Oh, that was so good. Yeah, I love Jeremy. Still love him. If not more, or the same, if not more, after that fight, man. He did it. He brought it to him, and I think Jeremy Stephens is one of those guys where it's KO or BKO'd, and 3 wins and he's in the title picture. I mean, he almost did it, right? When he fought, because he fought Aldo. I think if he doesn't get caught with that liver shot, he can beat Aldo in that fight. And we're talking a title shot for Jeremy. So it could easily happen again. He has the skills. He has he obviously has the fighting style that, gets people interested in watching him fight. But yeah, Kelvin just had, like, in that set, like, dude, Jeremy broke Kelvin's nose. He fucked up his leg, and then, and Kelvin hit him with he hit him with some of these, like, the nastiest the boxing combos I've ever seen, with, like 5-6 piece combos, including uppercuts and overhand, like nice hooks, big looping hooks, everything. And then he mixes it up and ends up throwing a short elbow, like, when he comes in. Dude, such a good fight. And Kelvin's no joke, but I think he's gonna have problems unless he learns to check those leg kicks.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, Jeremy could have gone to the well a couple more times, I think, to slow him down a little bit. But dude, what a good fight! Such a good fight.
Also, they were showing their rankings on that division, and 145 is stacked, but holy shit, 145 is stacked. The road ahead is insane. Kelvin Kattar.
Yeah, there's no easy route in any of these divisions, like lower than 185. Honestly, 170 is hard. 155 is harder. 145 is difficult. 135 is just stacked with killers. 125 barely exists, so we don't have to talk about it. But
Yep.
there's just like in these lower weight classes, man, like I said, like there's just more of a population. There's less sports for them to go after, and you just have a larger talent pool to pull from, and they're just getting better. They've just been getting better for the past, 20 years, and we're seeing the best fighters in UFC history right now, and especially in those divisions.
So since we're on it, who would you like to see as the next matchup for Calvin?
Cater, I got to look at the rankings. You tell me who you think first.
Looking at it, I'm torn a little bit. I would like to see him and Yair.
Okay.
I think that would be interesting. Frankie Edgar would also be interesting. I think that would be a little tougher for him because I think Frankie, like, yeah, he's seasons. I don't know. I think he could. I think Frankie could look at what Jeremy Stevens did and then just kind of take that to the next level of, all right, so this is what I'm going to test you on.
So, Yair would be a good fight, but I don't know if Yair is going to take it. He's pretty picky.
Yeah.
Josh Emmett's right there. He hasn't fought in a little bit, and
Yeah.
actually, that's not true. He just knocked. Who did he just beat? Poop. I don't remember now. But anyway, Josh Emmett, he lost to Stevens, and he had that long layoff with all those surgeries, and he ended up coming back. So, um, yeah, he beat Mirsad Bektik. That's what it was. Yeah, because he knocked out Johnson. Uh, dude, I don't know.
I don't know.
Cater just fought Zabit, and if it's a 5 round fight, I'm down.
Yeah.
If it's a 3 round fight, I don't want to see that. Like Zabit needs to fight a 5 round fight. I'm done. I'm done watching him in 3 round fights because he doesn't. As far as I'm concerned, he doesn't deserve a title shot until he shows that he can go 25 minutes with someone who's trying to push him.
Korean Zombie would also be good.
He's got to fight Ortega first.
Oh, that's right. He's got Ortega up.
Yeah. Anybody fighting Korean Zombie is exciting to me. So.
Yeah.
All right. So we had the weird ass Greg Hardy versus Jorgen De Castro.
The decision that no one saw coming. Just no one expected that to go to a decision, I think.
I didn't see. Honestly, I didn't think. Heavyweights for me, it's never.
It's rarely a good thing when it goes to a decision.
Well, yeah, that's true. But for me, at heavyweight, I don't. Whenever there's two big hitters, like when it's Ngannou, like it's understandable because he has a long enough track record. But these guys, where they're unproven and like they've knocked out some lesser names in the heavyweight division, that doesn't mean anything to me. And it's just Greg Hardy has improved. I'll give him that, and I believe he won this fight. I think that decision was correct. And De Castro has some shit he needs to work on. I don't know if he got injured when he injured his foot. I don't know how badly that damaged him. Not much to say about this
out
fight.
of the fight. Like he mentally just wasn't there in the third round. I don't know what he was doing, but
me either. It wasn't a great fight. It was okay, and I still think Greg Hardy's it's heavyweight, so he's got tons of room to maneuver, and he's got enough athleticism to carry him through probably to the top 10. If he keeps improving the way he's improving, just on athleticism alone, he'll catch enough people, and with his popularity, especially because he fights on main cards all the time, and his history, there's a good chance he could make the top 10.
I think. Listen, a win is a win, so it's a good thing for Greg Hardy. But I think he missed out on an opportunity to get kind of into the upper echelons of a main card, like, or possibly headline a fight night.
That's not going to happen, man.
I think had he gotten a decisive knockout or a pretty good highlight out of this fight, he could have.
I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah, he, like, the way the UFC is kind of pushing him up as a name, I think he probably would have headlined a lesser card.
Well, we saw what happens when he fights the upper echelon when he fought Volkov.
Yeah.
Dude, Volkov. Listen again. That's the exact fight that can show you with the right matchups at heavyweight. Hardy can compete with the best of them. Does it necessarily mean he's going to win? No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if he gets the right matchups with some of these aging heavyweights, on
putting together a win streak at heavyweight is hard.
Yeah.
Period.
Dude, it takes two knockouts and you can get a title shot. And I'm not joking. 2 knockouts and you're at a title shot. What if he fights Overeem and knocks out Overeem? He knocks out Overeem. I feel bad for Overeem. I mean, I don't. Overeem has had one of the best heavyweight careers. Super illustrious. The K1 Grand Prix champ, Strikeforce heavyweight champ.
I just mean like knockout wise. I just feel bad seeing Overeem get knocked out so much.
Dude, he's had 1,000 fights. It's just, dude. Honestly, for me, what makes Overeem, having the history Overeem does makes what Overeem, like what he's doing right now, it makes it even that much more impressive. Because when he gets touched, he goes to sleep. Right? We know that. That's how fucking good he is. He's still able to win, even though when he gets touched, he goes to sleep. That's how goddamn good he is. He almost knocked out Stipe. Remember when he rocked Stipe when they were in Ohio? Dude, he's got the skills. He's got the mindset, and he's got the thing that's failing him is his ability to take a punch. That's all that's failing him. And that's part of the game.
So much around it, too. Yeah. Just true. So, yeah. Credit where credit is due.
I think what he's doing now is as amazing, if not more amazing, than what he was doing earlier in his career, because it just shows how good of a fighter he is, that he's able to protect his chin that well. And he's always had that technique where he just turtles, stays still, and waits for you to like finish your combo. And it's worked for him for so long. He knows what he's doing. And like I said, could he get knocked out by Greg Hardy? Abso-fucking-lutely. I think a stiff breeze could knock out Overeem on the right night.
Yeah.
And that's not a detriment to him as a person or as a fighter. It's just his body. Yeah. His body has just given, like, his chin. Let's just face it. His brain and his chin have just given up on him. And
look what happened to Chuck Liddell. Like, that's his brain decided no more. I don't want to get hit anymore.
No mas. Night.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to the prelims because it had one of my favorite fights.
I'm curious. So, I'm curious which one it is on the prelims.
Pettis.
Okay, yeah, that was a good one. I wouldn't say that was my favorite one in the prelims, but
it wasn't my favorite, but it was. That's not true. It was really anticipated for me. I was very excited for that fight. So, but let's start the prelims off by the first loss. So Jacare Souza gets defeated by coronavirus, and.
Right.
So stupid. I'm an idiot. All right.
Happy the UFC's paying both of them, I'm sure.
Me too. Yes. All right. So Anthony Pettis versus Donald Cerrone. How did you score that?
That was hard. I
scored it.
That was a fight. I wasn't mad about Pettis.
Should have been 5 rounds.
Yeah,
should have been 5.
Cerrone. I was almost like, could this be a tie? I was curious to see if the judges were going to come out and that could, like, the scoring system isn't really well set up in 3 rounds to make a tie, but I was like, can we just do one more round?
Yeah. So the first, I don't remember offhand who won the first and second round. I could go back to look at my tweets, but
I would say Cerrone won the first round probably with the
with that takedown.
The takedown, right. He was a little more aggressive. Like Cerrone, I definitely had given the first round too.
Yeah, so then he got cracked in the second round, and Pettis won that second round. So the third round to me was the difference maker, and I scored it for Pettis, and I scored it for Pettis because guess who didn't see the eye poke? The same guy who robbed us of the goddamn
I know.
Dominic Cruz fight. Yeah, Keith Peterson did not see the eye poke. I'm not gonna blame him for it. It was really fast. Shit happens.
Yeah. I was
But
watching in
that
real
really
time and I saw
influenced
the
it.
reaction from Cerrone and I couldn't tell if it was a poke or if it was from a punch that just hit him because I'd seen punches hit people in the eye and they thought
Yeah,
they
the
got
knuckle.
poked.
The
Yeah.
knuckle.
So I was like, was that a knuckle or was that a finger to the eye? I just couldn't
It was a
tell.
thumb. It was a
Yeah.
thumb. And you know what? Or was it a pinky? I don't remember now. But yeah,
I think it was a
I
thumb,
had
you're
it.
right.
I had it scored for Pettis because of that little flurry in that third round right after. Because if the referee doesn't stop the fight, like or doesn't separate them right there, what the judges see is a punch clearly damaging a fighter. Okay, and then he's backing up, going like this, and then there's a little flurry. That's why I scored it for Pettis. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, if Keith Peterson stops it right there and we continue on, and the exact same thing happened, I would think Cerrone wins that fight. And I still saw some people who actually scored it for Cerrone, so it was very close. It's unfortunate that Cerrone has to lose 4 in a row for I think that's the first time in his career. I think. But dude, Luke Thomas pulled up a stat. He's like, the last time these guys fought was in 2013, and
Yeah, 7 years ago.
yeah, since then I think Pettis has fought like 13 times or 16 times, something like that. And
Like 3 or 4 different weight classes.
yeah, well, Cerrone's fought 28. Like he's fought so much more, man. Dude, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, good fight. I mean, it was fun to watch,
It
and
was fun to watch.
I
I wish
can't.
that
I'm
had been
not
five
mad.
rounds though. It was.
Yes, it should have been 5.
How are you going to have two of the biggest named vets in the UFC? I can not have a 5 round fight.
I know. I would have almost rather
You knew
have this
Francis
fight.
was going to be a 1 round. Like you knew Francis was going to win. That wasn't going to be a long fight. You could have given 5 rounds.
Yeah, we
Give
had
two of
room.
Francis's rounds to Cerrone and Pettis.
Yes. Yeah. So the fight before that, it did not go the way I thought it was going to go at all. And
Nope.
dude, if it, so I did put a caveat. I don't know if I did in my prediction, but somebody asked me and like I posted on Twitter. I'm like, we don't know how Fabricio's going to look after a 2-year layoff, but if given Fabricio before that, I think Fabricio easily, like Verdum's stand up is easily going to be better. Boy, was I fucking wrong. It was the exact opposite. He looked like shit. You said he looked like a sack of potatoes, and you were absolutely right,
Yeah.
dude. And Alexei doing the damn thing.
Just
Grandpa Oleanic just kicking
grandpa
ass.
jab. That
Dude,
grandpa jab.
dude, I told you he has 2 punches or like 3 punches. He has a jab, a looping overhand right, and an uppercut. That's all he's got. That's all he needed, and he just kept it
Yep.
on him. Just kept like he just
Put on
kept
a
moving
pace,
forward.
especially that
Yeah,
first round. Phew.
yeah, yeah. Alexei, like that was his. He has 59 wins. 59 wins. That's more that he has more wins than most people ever have fights in their career.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah, not a good Verdum. Honestly, I don't know if it was just ring rust. Obviously, his body looks far different. That could be age. That could be the fact that maybe he's not on the sauce anymore. It
I
could be lack of training. It could be 1,000 different things. But if that doesn't change for the next fight, it's going to be real bad. I don't think Verdum has much longer.
I will say, and it kind of circles back to a fight we've already touched on. I think Cruz, despite the controversial loss, made a good argument for ring rust as a mindset. Because I
Yeah,
do think he was warming up, and I do think it looked like he was starting to put everything together right before that. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm not seeing the rust. I think he's just taking his time and figuring this guy out.
he always does that.
I
Like
know. Like it
he's a
didn't
very
look like a
cerebral
different Cruz.
fighter.
Yeah. So anyway, but yes, I think Verdum just was not on his game.
No, it
Period.
looked like
Yeah.
crap. Like he had a couple moments on the ground. Like actually, that's not true. In one, I think it was in the third round, Verdum got Oleanic in a
Straight arm
nasty,
bar. And then,
Well, it was a Kimura, and he transitioned on top and then put him in a straight armbar, and Oleanic is just like, he was like, no, listen, I am grandfather. I have to feed so much large family. I cannot have to this. He
you
just
can't
fucking
armbar a boa constrictor. And he
yeah,
just
yeah.
took his
He
arm
just
back.
yeah, dude. Oh man,
I
I
don't
love
have
that guy.
joints. Give me that back.
I love that guy so much. I really do. I think he's fun to watch. He's interesting on Twitter and Instagram. Uh, he's just a fun guy to watch.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to another controversial decision. Carla Esparza versus Michelle Watterson. Let me go. Let me go first on this one.
Please.
Not on the decision. What the fuck was Carla doing, dude? She clearly. So I'll chalk up the first round to feeling it out. Fine, if you want that. But at the end of the first round, Carla goes in, shoots in for a double, and takes Michelle down super fucking easy. And then in the second round, she every time she would get close to Michelle, she would just back right out and disengage. It's like, dude, your path to victory is on the inside, it's on the ground. And she wasn't doing either one of those things. Like, I still maintain that she would have won that fight through grappling. I don't think
Oh
Michelle would
yeah.
have won it.
I
And
was
Yeah,
I was curious if maybe there was a shot that we couldn't see that stunned Carla that maybe like had her second guessing going into the third round. Like that was my mindset was like, did
not
she
for
eat
three
some
rounds. It didn't. No.
did she eat something that like I don't see that's making her like not want to try and get in there close with Michelle or something? Because it was weird. That third round was weird.
Yeah, and when everybody was like, they're like, oh, like that was a terrible decision. I can't believe there was one judge who had a 30-27 Carla and one judge who had a 30-27 for Michelle. Like, what do you mean you can't believe that? Nothing
what
happened in the fight.
what sport have you been watching?
Yeah, yeah. First of all, yeah, welcome to
Oh, I'm sorry.
MMA. Welcome to
I wanted to
MMA.
I wanted to post a meme of the fucking James Franco with the noose, like, oh, first time to all the casual people
Yeah,
that have never seen a bad judging scorecard, like, oh.
but it wasn't even here. Here's the thing: I wouldn't fault the judge for any scorecard because there wasn't fucking nothing happened. Nothing happened in the first. Barely anything happened in the second, and like, so the third round was the only time anything happened, and that was, I think, the round that Carla probably won. But the first two rounds could literally be anybody's. And if you saw that third round for Michelle, fine. So a 30-27 for either one of them is completely acceptable to me because they didn't do anything. Like, if it's egregious when one fighter, it's an egregious decision when there's clearly enough action to judge by and the judges get it wrong. That's egregious. What's not egregious is judges seeing two people play patty cake for 15 minutes and saying like,
I guess I'm just
fuck
judging
it.
ring control.
There
Neither one was really aggressive, so I've only got one factor.
there was no octagon control.
I know.
Like the biggest difference was Carla got one takedown in one, maybe two takedowns, but she really only had one takedown in each round, and she didn't do anything with them. So if that's going to be your deciding factor, I would argue that Michelle landed the bigger. Dude, it doesn't matter. It was a. I don't like saying bad fights. I just think it was let's say
It
lackluster.
wasn't a great performance.
Especially coming after the fucking Vicente Luque versus Nico Price fight. Holy shit.
So let's just
Dude,
transition to
Luke.
that because I'm done with this.
So Nico Price, he's got some of the most creative finishes, like not creative, awkward. Like he finished James Vick with an up kick, and he finished Randy Brown with hammer fists from the back. He supported Randy Brown's head with his ankle, so he had his foot underneath like Randy Brown's head like this, and then he hit him on the other side with hammer fists, and he knocked him out from his back. Probably, I think like I don't think I've ever seen anybody knock two people out from their back in the UFC. He's got some creative in it. He hits hard. I'll say this: I think he looked a little slow. I think he didn't look like himself out there. I think he made it a dogfight, which is what he had to do to get the win. But I don't know. He seemed off. Vicente Luque just put it on him. Did great, and ends up closing up Nico Price's eye. Nico's right eye, and I called it too. Like right when they did that, and the guys went in there. Oh, I'm like, oh, they're gonna stop this fight. He can't see. He has no
it
right
was
eye.
swelling up so fast.
Yeah, you can't
The
see.
moment. Yeah, that was. And honestly, that's a good stoppage. Like it sucks.
Oh,
I've seen
perfectly
some
fine. I know.
I've seen some doctor stoppages
totally
where I'm
okay.
like, all right, come on, yeah, over the eyes bleeding, like that sucks. And there's some fighters that would rather keep going, but when your eye is swollen shut, then it's just like, all right,
If
you're not
there are
Bisping.
10 seconds, if there are 10 seconds left in the fight, and your eye is completely swollen shut,
Okay, fair. There's some contextual situations like
no. Well, that would be okay. Wait, when yeah, but any other time, man, I don't care. Like if you have one eye, you can't be fighting, dude.
yeah,
I know it sucks, it's terrible, and that it has to end this way. But they were both in good spirits about it. Like it was just a good fight.
yeah.
So it's like, dude, they were cracking each other. Like, 'cause I think Nico broke Vincente's nose too. Dude, there were so many good fights.
I'll be honest, that fight got me. That fight is what got me pumped for Ferguson Gaethje. Not that I wasn't already completely pumped. I was like, when you started hearing like the echoes of them cracking each other in there, I'm like, oh, this is going to be an interesting venue for this. Because that was the first fight you really started hearing it.
Remember when they were like, "This is gonna be that's fight of the night right there." I'm like, do you guys know who's fighting on this card? You know who's fighting?
Oh man!
Oh yeah,
and
I forgot to mention this. Justin Gaethje. Oh, I was gonna say he has 7 fights in the UFC, and he has 9 bonuses. What the fuck?
Just incredible,
dude. That's a record I don't think will ever be broken. 7 fights, 9 bonuses. Get out of here.
Also, and I can't believe I want to circle back and talk about the Greg Hardy fight really quick, but there's an honorable mention for Cornerman of the Year, and that's Daniel Cormier for Greg Hardy.
Oh yeah, DC. Yeah, because someone else said
DC
that too.
Taught him how to check
like
a leg
they could
kick
hear him
during the fight.
Yeah, DC goes like he needs to start checking those leg kicks, otherwise that's going to be a problem. And then Hardy's like, "Oh yeah, good idea. Let's do that."
Yeah, this is like, oh, great coaching, DC.
And that's how
he broke the other dude's foot. He literally won, right?
Yeah, that's how DeCastro broke his foot or hurt his foot.
All
right, so the early prelims, which normally, I mean, nobody's really interested in, but I figure.
So this was kind of like low key my favorite fight of the night, as much as every other fight was amazing.
Bryce Mitchell versus Charles Rosa. Yeah, that was really good, man. Dude, Bryce Mitchell had, 5 or 6 twisters almost locked up. He had Rosa in a standing arm triangle. Oh, no, that was the span fight.
There was
he had him in like 5 or 6 different arm triangles that were super deep. And Rosa, dude, I think
Rosa spent more time in a submission than he did not in a submission in some of those rounds.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Bryce Mitchell's no joke, man, because I did some research after the fight because I wasn't super familiar with Charles Rosa, but he's a legit black belt. And you saw it too. All credit in the world to Bryce Mitchell. Yes. Bryce Mitchell is he just made Rosa look like he didn't belong there with him. It was unbelievable. Like his transitions, his ability to stay on top, to stay in dominant position, always maintaining control, going from one submission to another. I've never seen people like a dude transition so smoothly into a twister and then right back into a triangle. Like the arm triangle, man, like his arm triangle is so nasty. Like you're just in it when it goes to the ground, all of a sudden your arm's just like trapped up here and you're just like, what the hell happened?
And the fucking twist, and honestly, this is probably a little bit hyperbolic, but it was a level of dominance that reminded me of watching Khabib fight someone, where it just looks like there's nothing. Yeah,
that's not hyperbolic at all. That's for sure what I saw.
Because it's like what Khabib has done to like other people that are good wrestlers. It's like, oh no, I'm just gonna show you that there's a different level to this, and make you not be able to do anything. Like that's what he did. He just
unbelievable.
And it's not like he just
so good.
he didn't sit on top of Charles Rosa. He could have just held position that entire fight and
No, he was trying to
elbowed
finish.
and punched him. He went for nonstop. Even when it caused him to like potentially lose position, he was nonstop going for the finish. And then he just rolled right back into being in a dominant position. Like it was incredible. Like that was the fight that I think I enjoyed the most out of all the fights, just because of how different it was and how interesting it was.
Yeah, for sure. I love that fight. That was so much fun. And it followed kind of a lackluster light heavyweight opener from Span versus Alvey. It was okay. I think Sam Alvey is better suited at 185. I think his power and his strength carries much better down there. I think at 205 he's just a little overmatched when it comes to strength.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he'll unless he makes some serious changes to his style, which I highly doubt. 48 fights into his career. I don't think at this point he's changing much. So I think if he can't make the weight to 185 anymore, I'm pretty sure he's kind of done. So Ryan Span's like a younger fighter in the division. Like I think he's 3-0 or 4-0 in the UFC, and he's athletic. He was moving in and out. He was stinging Sam. Sam was catching him on the entry with a check left hook. Yeah, or right hook. Yeah, and it was just. I mean, it wasn't a bad fight. There was nothing, but it's so hard to remember that fight after the excellence that happened and the rest of the card.
I know. I honestly forgot that fight had happened until I went back to look at the scorecards and everything, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that was right before Bryce Mitchell, because the Mitchell fight kind of kicked off the night for me. I was like, oh, this is going to be a unique UFC.
All right, before we sign off here, I do want to talk about just a little bit of the protocol and how weird it was, because I'm not going to sit here and criticize. I'm more just curious, because the cornermen had to wear masks, the cutmen had to wear masks, the inspectors had to wear masks, but the commentators didn't. And I could see from a production standpoint why masks on your commentators would suck, because having them talk like this, and it's probably not great for like TV or radio, so that's not good. So I totally get that. Dana White wasn't wearing a mask. Fine. Whatever. It's one guy. And here's another thing. The commentators had to be spaced apart. They were on different sides of the octagon talking to each other. But then
I don't think it's going to be like that for the next one.
But well, here's the thing. But then they brought them together for the
TV spots.
Yeah, they were just right next to each other when they're doing the little hype up thing for the pay-per-view.
When I was watching, even hours before when I first turned it on, they were standing next to each other and
that's what I'm
starting
saying.
to do some of the breakdown, and they're like, "Why are we going to be sitting apart? We're just right next to each other right now with no masks."
And then Joe was doing interviews post-fight, shaking hands and stuff, which if you follow Joe Rogan, you understand his thoughts on this whole thing, and especially because everybody was tested, I totally understand both sides of the argument. I totally get it. I really do. I understand why people are saying what they're saying. I am not here to question the efficacy of anything that happened. I am just curious as to why there was such wildly different things going on in one event, and people were sometimes wearing the masks, they were sometimes taking them off. There was only one cornerman allowed in the octagon at a time, which was fucking weird, because the other two were literally right next to him, just outside the cage. It's so weird.
I have some thoughts and opinions on this. I think a lot of what you saw was an unnecessary level of security theater. Essentially,
okay. Yeah. All right. That makes
essentially
sense.
just kind of a reaction to we're trying to convince the Florida State Athletic Commission to let us put it on. We need to put enough words onto this document and enough things that make it look like we're adhering to what is being advertised as these are the protections against it, that it sounds on paper like this is going to be effective. I don't think they did a dress rehearsal of this is what it's going to look like on camera when we have one corner man in and everyone I don't necessarily think that anyone went through and did a dress rehearsal of the standards that they submitted to the Athletic Commission. So that's why I think when they executed it, you started to see, like, essentially there's going to be an after action report. They're going to see, like, okay, this looks weird. This was kind of redundant. And I'm like, I went back to work last week for the first time since this happened, and we were in a similar situation. There's a bunch of protocols put into place. And then as we're going through the week, all of us are pointing out, like, well, this is dumb. This is pointless because of what we're doing here. Like, honestly, in the way the UFC ran it, like, I understand why grocery stores that have different people coming in and out want to have people with masks on at all times. Like,
Yes.
that makes, all right, that as a protocol, given what we know, makes sense. In this setting, since everyone has been tested, everyone is closed in there. It's not different people coming in and out. You know every single person in there, every single person working, and all of them have been shown that they're clear of it. Ditch the masks. Let them operate as a full corner. Like, I hope that, let the people stand together, be together. Like, that's, if everyone's clear and everything's good, you don't need to have those protocols. If even one person in there has it, them having a mask on, given everything in there, like, everyone's going to have it.
Yeah.
Like, it's every single, if Dana White walks in and has it, everyone has it. Like,
Yeah.
at that point, you've done everything you can do just purely through testing standpoint. I think you got to ditch some of the security theater because it doesn't make as much sense. I think the biggest protocols that they have are testing and tracking, and
I actually think
keeping control of people coming in and out. Like,
I think the best way to do this, it's unfortunate, given the circumstances, especially for the fighters, is like an isolation. Like they test them coming in, they test them going out, and if you
Fight
if you
Island.
test positive, well, yeah, but you don't even have to do that. If you test positive, you just stay on site.
Yeah.
You know, like you stay on site for 2 weeks and you wait for it to pass and you're good. And does that suck? Of course it does, because you'd probably love to be with your family or with your friends. But you just got paid to fight. You are one of the only athletes in the world right now who's getting to perform in front of people. And you chose to be there. Like, that's clearly, like, if as long as it's laid out in the contract and they agree to it, I think it's completely fine.
Yeah, I think they'll look back on this and realize what was the effective protocols and what was overkill and what maybe wasn't effective. And you're just gonna, I mean, it was one of the first times I've watched the entire post-fight press conference.
That was weird.
Dana White set it out pretty, like, they're gonna learn from it. They're just gonna do it better next time. So they're probably gonna adjust some of what they did. They're gonna get rid of some, like, it's a pretty no-nonsense organization. If something doesn't make sense in production standpoint, they're gonna get rid of it. If they're like, why can't we have all these corner, like, I think Ferguson was like, where's the cut man at one point? Because someone came in there and it wasn't the cut man. And that's why I'm like,
I mean, it's his coach, but I was so pissed off because, like, the cut man didn't go in there to take care of the cut underneath the cheek. I was like, the fuck? Because that's what he said. He was like, what the fuck?
And I think there's probably some confusion from the cut man standpoint of what he wasn't allowed to do when he saw the
so dumb.
I think they'll get it ironed out. It'll be smoother next time, but yeah, like I said, I just don't think there was a dress rehearsal, and I think that's what
I hope so.
Yeah, I think that's what it looks like when you write out a bunch of protocols and then don't really think about how that's going to look when you execute. But yeah, we got it.
Yeah, we got 2 more coming up this week. Hopefully, we can record again before then. We'll cover those because we got one on Wednesday.
June, so just tell me when we'll record.
Yeah, but obviously we'll during the day, hopefully, before I go to work. So, thanks guys for watching. Hope you guys all enjoyed the fights. If this is your first time watching us or watching the UFC, like, do not get used to this. This is not normal. not in performance quality or production standpoint. Like, a lot of UFCs are kind of lackluster, and we didn't get lucky. Okay, these guys went out there and did their job, and they put on some incredible fights. It's not luck. It's just they made it worth every fucking penny for that pay-per-view. But yeah, what you got?
I think that's it. Thanks. We wrapping it up?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everyone for sticking through, listening. If you got any comments for us, if you got any advice, if there's anything you'd like to see, if there's anything you hate about it, by all means, please let us know. Always looking for different ways to improve this. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that UFC in this podcast as much as we have, because this has been a fun couple of days going through, breaking it down, watching it, and talking to you about it. Like, it was,
Especially after a shitty month and a half.
yeah, it was just a pleasure. I was, I could barely sleep last night because I was so excited about getting to record this with you. Because I was like, wow.
I know. I wanted to record last night right afterwards.
All right, dude.
All right. Love y'all.